John, it's really good to see you. Today, we are talking about long term care insurance. Three things to consider before you buy a policy. I was really surprised to learn that more than 70% of adults who live to age 65 will need long term care. Not only is it very expensive, but it's not covered by Medicare, and it's usually not covered by most health insurance plans as well. So let's just start with big picture. Who even needs long term care insurance?
I would say in the broad scheme is everybody should be having a long-term care approach set up.
Hmm.
And everybody has a different economic means and health care and past histories with their family. That this guy has to really have a general plan in their mind.
Hmm.
Where would I go if we got there?
Right. And it's also about taking care of your family. I'm glad you mentioned that as well. So let's walk through those considerations then. A lot of people wonder, what is the right age to buy long term care insurance?
Really, a lot of times, long-term care, the age, one, you have to get close to the standpoint of when you think you need it or where it's even coming into your face. You're 40, it's hard to really visualize long-term care at that point. As you approach 50, if you really were trying to get on top of it, maybe your kids are done with school, um, you're at college costs are down. That might be the time if you have some significant savings to really start considering looking at long-term care.
Hmm. Okay. So the next consideration we're going to talk about is coverage. And as we think about that, I want to bring up this visual, which takes a look at the cost of care by state. So this is the Cleveland area. When we take a look at monthly median costs, it ranges from about $5,200 a month up to almost like $9,500 a month. That is so expensive. So how do we then determine what kind of coverage we should be buying?
You know, Everybody has their own really feeling on this. I think a lot of times it helps if you had a parent that maybe went through this and maybe they had to do the spend down and those type of
Hmm.
things to get qualified for Medicaid or something of that nature.
Hmm.
What are their choices? Really, there's two choices. There's the traditional long-term care, which that's almost like buying your auto insurance where you're paying your monthly or your annual fee every year and you hope you never use it. And if you pass away somewhere down the road, all that money's gone. Then there's some people who just say, you know what, I don't want to just throw my money out the door for something that I might never need.
Hmm.
And for those people, looking at the life-based long-term care is a really good option because what it does is if you were to live a long time and never need long-term care, at the very least at the end of it, your heirs would get a death benefit that you paid for through life insurance.
I see.
But if you needed the long term care, you could tap a part of that life insurance to cover some of your long term care, assuming, of course, with any insurance you meet certain requirements.
Mhm. Okay. So I think you're kind of answering it. I just want to ask explicitly, what are the options then to address this cost, which can be just so expensive?
You know, the cost is definitely a big part. Actually, I have some clients going through it right now. I'm
Mm.
20 years into this, so I'm just on the other side of where I'm really starting to see some of the clients I started with years ago get into the situation. And really, it comes down to everybody wants to maintain their independence. So at that point, really the cost is almost a second factor. That's where sometimes the medical side becomes more of the factor than really just the decision to have long term care.
Mhm.
What I would
Yeah.
say the people who want long term care are the people who really want to have as many choices, as many cards on the table for them when they're at that point and they can make the best decision for them.
Mhm. Okay. Now, last question. Let's say that I don't qualify for long-term care insurance. Maybe I'm too old. Maybe now I do have a medical condition. Are there any other options that you would recommend people consider?
I would argue with almost anybody, even if you have long term care, prior to starting that process, is to visit with an attorney who clearly understands the Medicaid and long term care process.
Mhm.
We have various long term care attorneys that we deal with here that they're fantastic and they just create this guiding light as you're going through. And that way you can make the best decision for you with your health costs usually the secondary decision is, hey, I have all these assets and I want this to go to my kids and I don't want to go all to the long-term care. So all those things, that's where you want to incorporate that attorney into it. And really, most financial planners, I would hope, would have somebody in their hip pocket that they could call and address those situations.
Yeah, certainly it'd be nice to have an advocate because this can get very complicated. But what I'm learning now, John, after talking this through with you, is that the sooner you can have these conversations with a professional, the better it will be for you and your family. So if somebody has any questions about what we've covered today, John, what's the best way to reach you?
You can call 440-471-4300. Give us a call and just kind of give us a feel for what's going on with your situation. The main thing is you want to make sure you're not calling somebody and they say that they're an expert in long-term care and all they're doing is pushing long-term care insurance on you. You really got to have someone who's going to step back and say, hey, here's your situation and what's best for you. And that's kind of where we start to fit in.
Absolutely. No cookie cutter options here. John, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate it.
Sounds good. Take care.